very low. Just wait for everybody. Hello. How are we? Good, good. 2 seconds. Yep. You all right, sweetie?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Great.
Decisions. Decisions, decisions, decisions. Do do do. Do do do. Come along. So, welcome to our awareness night. This is a night where we discuss different aspects of spiritualism. There's a lot to discuss. We have our spiritual cafe night at the end of the month where we go out into the wider realm of spirituality. But at the beginning of the month we're talking about actual spiritualism, the religion and the philosophy of spiritualism. Topic tonight is mediumship. Why do we have it? Yeah, what is it? And why do we have it? So when we use the term of mediumship, it's a very generic word. Over the years, it's never really been sort of like explained to everybody coming in through the doors. So we've ended up now in this very insular feel. When we say the term medium, everybody instantly thinks of somebody stood on the platform, I've got your mother here. Yeah? It's not. Mediumship is receiving from the spirit world. The technical term, medium, it's an interface. So like where you have a gasket in a car, that's the medium. So it's the interface between two different substances. So with what we do, the mediums are the interface between this world, us here, and the spirit world. But that mediumship, that form of communication takes many, many different forms. We have what we know now as the evidential medium. Now that's the medium that will demonstrate that communication, be it in services, in demonstrations. Those of you here last Sunday? Yeah. And we had an excellent demonstration of communication. Really good, really good. So that's our evidential mediums. But also, again, in our services, we have that time for the address or for the philosophy. Now, the philosophy of spiritualism, to me, is meant to be, A, understandable, not, reading out of a book that sometimes I've seen people pick up books and with all the greatest of respect, they don't really understand what it's saying, and they try and deliver an address on that. Well, that's never going to go anywhere. Or we'll sit there and read a poem by somebody, and then we'll talk about something completely different, and I just think, so hang on, why is that going on? Or when you get the accomplished demonstrators with a philosophy, everything will flow. And in a really good address, everybody should be able to take something from that address. So it should be relevant to today. It should be about our lives today. It should be about how we are with other people, how we are with ourselves, and all things like that on the theme. I always say, in our services, the one thing that we should always strive to deliver is hope to people. Because goodness knows there's not a lot about at the moment, is there? So, you know, we want that touching of our souls really through the philosophy. Now, obviously, you know, everybody works differently, and I could say something that maybe three of you go, wow, I really like that, and the rest might go, yeah, it's all right. And then if I did something else, the rest of you go, wow, that was really good, and the other three go, yeah, it's all right. You know, so we understand that, and more importantly, the people we always leave out, the spirit world understand that as well. So getting back on track, when we're talking about mediums, our healers are healing mediums. We have a lovely representative here tonight. Oh, we have two, in fact, healing mediums here tonight. That means their mediumship, their connection with the spirit world is to deliver spiritual healing and not to give a message halfway through. But we know that, don't we? It is difficult, but it's a discipline. So, as we're talking tonight about mediumship, first of all, you know, is trying to understand it, the many different forms. The thing I love in spiritualism is that everything we do is evidential. Everything we do has got evidence to it. Now, obviously, we have the evidential mediums. I give you a description of a mother here, about 5'8", white hair, a bit bustly, similar build to yourself. I nearly said quite chatty, but I stopped. And well, I haven't got quite chatty, actually. I've got somebody who would step back a little bit. Understand? Understand that to be mum? There you go. Evidential mediumship. I've already said to the spirit world tonight I would like to demonstrate just a little bit, because the spirit world working hand in hand with us, and they are intelligent. So it's nice when we can bring these little snippets in. These little nuggets come in. So, why did I go there? It made me forget. So yeah, we have the evidential mediumship, and that's probably the first form of mediumship that most people will come across. Most people will go to either a demonstration. So a demonstration will be very few, if any, religious observances. There may be an opening prayer, or there may not be, and it's straight in, start delivering the messages. Or we have our divine services, where we celebrate what we're about. And in there we incorporate the philosophy, we incorporate the healing, and we incorporate the evidential mediumship. But people coming through the doors, their first exposure to us as spiritualists is by seeing the evidential mediums at work, which is wonderful, because to me, our core philosophy, our core belief is we do not die. Everything we do comes from that. It's nice and simple. I like things simple because I'm simple. So I don't like all this, you know, we're going to do this and because of that and because of this. Just like, don't, stop it. Just make this easy to understand. Everything we do in mediumship is evidential. So just giving a small example there of the evidential form of mediumship. But in the addresses we hear, the philosophy we hear, the number of times people go out and say, do you know what, in the address today it said something and it really put things into perspective to me. I really went, oh, I understand that. I really get that. Our healing, the evidence there. All right, we may not have, people say, well, why can't you cure cancer? Why can't you, you know, stop somebody from dying? Because we can't interfere with a life plan. But the way in which they pass can be alleviated. My parents were very good healers, and they were going to see a lady in Poole Hospital, And they went up there 7 nights on the trot, given the healing. The 8th night, they got up there. The son was there, and bless his heart, he's just lost his mum. All right, so the guy is distraught. Saw me mum and dad, really went off the deep end. A lot of good your healing did. My mum's lying in there dead, which you can understand from, you know, from a layman's point of view. Yeah, get it, totally get it. One of the nurses knew me mum because she used to be a nurse up there, and she said she had pancreatic cancer, and that is one of the most painful cancers that you can have. And she never even had an aspirin because she didn't have any pain. Is that the healing? Is it not? It's not provable, but then we don't know, we haven't got the control of somebody with the same condition, the same tolerances, not having healing to measure against somebody who does. But we know and we trust that healing is given on some level. There was something. The evidence suggests the healing was working, because the life path was, that was this lady's time to go back, but it needn't be painful, it needn't be as bad as it could be. It could be better. And I'm sure, you know, many of us, we don't want to entertain the thought of our own, what's the word? There's a word. Our own, what do I? Yeah, thank you. That's the one. But we all know that 50 years from now, 70 years from now, we ain't going to be here. Well, he might be, because nobody wants him.
You don't know.
No, I don't. I'm sure. Upstairs going, I don't want him. And downstairs going, no thanks. Yeah, but 70 years from now, it's fair to say, you know, that we're probably not going to be here. So we can't avoid it, but we don't want to think about it. But I'm sure that if we did actually sit down and think about it and just think, however I go, as, you know, as long as it's easy as it can be, that will suit me down to the ground. This is the old joke, is I want to go quietly and peacefully in me sleep like my Uncle Albert, not screaming in terror like the passengers on his bus. So, yeah, you know, part of spiritualism is about life. It's not about death. You know, people, you know, you're talking to dead people. Yeah, we are, but actually I find more life in the spirit world sometimes than we do this side of life. I find more engagement from the spirit world than I do sometimes this side of life. I find more open-mindedness and willingness to discuss and debate things than we do on this side of life. So, you know, mediumship has so much to offer on all of its levels. If we delve back into the past and the history of it, there was always, and we're going back to, I think it was 1600 BC, there was a Germanic tribe who at that time populated what we now know as Sweden, Norway, Denmark, all that area. They were the first recorded instance of having seers, having, you know, the wise woman, who before they went into battle, they would consult the wise woman, and she would give advice on, you know, if you go round the back or over the mountains, it's going to be better than going that way, and things like that, because there was something there. And from there, seers became much more established. Go through the Roman Empire, everybody had a seer, because it was just an accepted fact that these people knew things that we didn't. It wasn't gone into the way we go into spiritualism today, but it was just a very accepted fact, and seers were actually fought over. If one king had a particularly good seer, the other kings would all gang up and try and grab them, because they wanted them. They wanted the control of that ability. So there's always been this ability in the human race. We go to places like Australia with the indigenous tribes there, and the story of the ancestors. They would sit around campfires and talk to their ancestors, which is what we call a den of mediumship. There are things in the Bible that, if you look at it from the eyes of spiritualism, Jesus rising from the grave 3 days after, we call that materialization. We used to have mediums of a time that would use a substance produced from the body called ectoplasm, and the full form and figure of somebody departed would build up. And there's many accounts. I'm reading a book at the moment by a Scottish medium, and it's fascinating what was going on in those days. Today we think, well, why can't we have that mediumship of then? Well, we live in a different society, different culture, different mindset today. In those days, education was only limited to a very few, a very small percentage of the population. So the spirit world had to do more visual stuff to get the message over. So we would see levitation. I'd love to levitate. Some people, I really want to levitate, come on. Levitation, we would have direct voice, which is the medium would be sat here and the voice would be coming from any point in the room through a voice box that would be made up by ectoplasm and things like that. But it was that time spiritualism was really coming to the fore, so it had to grab people's attention. Nowadays, we refer a lot to the mediums that we see demonstrating on our platform, in the main, are what we refer to as mental mediums. Now, I don't mean it that way, although there are a few. I have a list. But they are called mental mediumships because the information is coming through the medium's mind. That little snippet there with Imam, I'm just talking and that information is coming in. You know, when we talk, we don't think about how our brain formulates those thoughts to create the words. And it's a similar process. You just find it because you trust and relax into the energy. And
do you see though?
Sorry?
Can you, when you're doing your mediumship, can you like see a picture in your head of the person?
Good question. Good question. Because we have what we call clairvoyance, clear seeing, and you will hear mediums say, "I see." We can do an experiment. Yay! So, how many fingers and thumbs am I holding up? 5.
5. 4 fingers, 1 thumb.
Yeah. Sir? 5?
5.
Right. Brilliant. How many fingers and thumbs was I holding up?
None.
Was I?
Down.
No, was I holding up?
Oh, 5.
Yeah. How do you know that?
Memory.
Yeah, exactly. Good word. You can't see it. It's a memory. We share their memories, or we're allowed access to their memories.
What, by verbal thoughts?
No, it's just in the dashboard of your car. All right, describe that.
Can't remember.
Okay. You go first tonight. We'll wait. All right, your kitchen.
Blue.
There you go. When you think about it, you can see
I
it.
can see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. But you're not seeing
No,
it.
just thinking.
Yeah, that's it.
Blindsight.
Yeah, it is. And we, as mental mediums, the more we relax into the communication and the more we step away from, you often hear a medium saying, oh, they're showing me, oh, they're telling me, oh, she's saying this. You can go beyond that a bit by really allowing yourself to immerse into that person's memory. So instead of Nicky, nothing is what you're going to do. Come up here, my darling.
I know, they're so painful tonight.
Good grief. Look at that barefoot, it'll be chasing Bigfoot around or
I
something.
know, it's so painful.
So. Right, you repeat what I say to
I
you.
am a brother.
I passed with cancer.
And I passed with cancer.
It was cancer of the blood called leukemia.
It was cancer of the blood called leukemia.
Do you see that as a means of communication? It's a bit stinted because Nikki is trying to listen to what's being said and then relaying that. Now, when we work in mental mediumship, the trick is to stop thinking. All right? It's really difficult because I was always taught in circle, think of nothing and talk to the spirit world. And I was going, how do you do that then? There is a technique to doing it, it's just through experience. But can you hear that disconnectedness there? Whereas if you really relax, thank you, Nikki, wonderful. Whereas if you really relax into that communicator, if you really allow yourself to be that passive part of them, and you can relay that saying, I am a brother here, I had leukemia, that was how I passed, but I know before I passed here. So you're being that person rather than, oh, they're telling me this, they're telling me that, they tell me this. Because it's a bit like then going through an interpreter and you couldn't, the old saying, you lose something in the interpretation. So mental mediumship came in probably about the late 1920s, but really took off in the 1930s. Because by that time, society had changed again. Spiritualism had become much more established. Where did spiritualism first gain a foothold in the UK? Anybody? You clever sod, get out.
I know because you told us.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
I need to go.
Yeah, but only you remember it. Because of your good memory.
But that's true, yeah. It first really took a foothold in the Midlands, and one of the biggest reasons was you had ports like Liverpool. So where spiritualism had taken off in America, then people were emigrating into the country. They took up jobs. They were emigrating into the country and bringing this new thing. Once it hit London, as is the thing with London, nothing's real until they talk about it in London. Anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah, all right. Again, it went on further, and we saw the real explosion then in mental mediumship. And we had amazing mediums at that time. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, because we talk about the pioneers with this very deep reverence and love, quite rightly, because you read these books, accounts of old meetings and demonstrations. The one I'm reading at the moment, the medium stood up and he walked into the church for the first time. He said, I've got your wife here, Dot, and she's brought Sally along as well, and they're really glad to see you. Well, Dot was his wife and Sally was his daughter. I mean, we don't see that so much today. I'll get on to potential why. But in those days, it was like a real, you can't argue with it. You walk into somewhere as a complete stranger and somebody gives you your departed wife's, and she was always called Dot. It was Dorothy, but she was always called Dot. So, you know, it really did snowball from there, this mental mediumship. Reasons being because we learned more how to work and how to develop our skills with the spirit world. Who's familiar with circles? I know we are here. You understand circles? No, that's right. You better. Yeah, this is what you do to me every Thursday, dear. A circle is literally a circle of chairs. They started off, their prominence was home circles. So Jan here would have a home circle every Tuesday afternoon. And Jan would invite certain people that she knew, and they would sit in circle together. It was a very good discipline. Circles of old, you were there. And even if you were dead, it didn't stop you being there, because if you were dead, you had to come through as a message. You had to be there. It was about discipline. It was very much feet on the ground teaching. It was repetition with different aspects of mediumship. It would just be sitting in that power, just sitting quietly. But by showing the dedication, showing the commitment, you see the unfoldment of people's mediumship in different aspects. Now, not everybody is going to be an evidential medium up on a platform. Not everybody is going to be a really good psychic artist who can draw deceased people. But everybody can work on their awareness of the other world. Who has been at home and just known that somebody is close by? Okay. Yeah. Where does that come from? Anybody?
Senses.
It's your awareness. Life is busy, and unfortunately we've got back on the busy aspect with a vengeance, it seems now, and along with the new energy of entitlement. So the world today, to most people, is very blinkered. Right, I've got to be here, I've got to be there, I've got to do this, got to do that, got to go to work, got to go to bed, got to have a new car, got to have all of it, you know, and it's just drive, drive, drive all the time. Circles offer that time of, forget all that, just sit in the power, just sit with spirit. It sounds a bit weird, but it does work. It does bring in a meditation, it does bring in a peace. And if you are actively working on any form of mediumship and you haven't got too many, you said hang-ups, that's not the right word. The only thing that limits the spirit world is our limitations. And this is where I can come back to why don't we see people just giving names to people straight off the cuff? Because mediumship has got watered down over the years. The last 30 years have not been a very productive time in our movement. It's been a very slow time. It's been a bit static, a bit sedentary. And so, you know, people's aspirations of working with the spirit world have become limited, not deliberately. When I was talking earlier about ectoplasm and full body manifestations and all these different physicals, a physical medium is something that will interact with our physical world, be it by sight, by sound, by smell, by taste. They physically interact with us. Why don't we see that anymore? Well, number one, we don't need that so much now, because the evidence given by mental mediumships is pretty damned astounding. When you get a medium who's on top of their game, the whole point of that communication is when you go out here, the spirit world would like you to be going, how does that work? What's it about? And start you on your path of discovery. Unfortunately, we do get people now very addicted to the message. They don't want to hear, I actually had this, somebody say it in here, I don't want to hear all the talking, i.e. the philosophy, I just want the messages. That's fine, if that's all you want out of it, that's great. It's probably not the church for you, because we will continue to do all the talking. So, because I asked the spirit world once, I said, do you not, what's your language? Do you not get really despondent with people just keep coming in week after week just wanting a message? And they said, no, we will keep giving and giving and giving, but what these people do with it is none of our business. And I went, I get that. I get that. I'm human, all right? And I can be a little bit grumpy at times, can't I? Shut it.
Yeah. I wouldn't dare say that.
Don't you dare. And yeah, if Jan, if you came in every week and just kept asking the same question every week, week in, week out, week in, week out, after a while I'd be thinking, oh, for God's sake, here we go again, you know, because I'm human. The spirit world aren't. They just give out love. So people coming in, and I mean, the messages aren't changing what they're getting. There may be different information in the messages, but the basic tenet of I'm here, I'm alive, I am intelligent, I can communicate, I'm aware of what you're doing and what's affecting you in this world at this time. That is the basic message that Spirit keep giving to us. But again, what we do with it is entirely up to us. If we go, oh, that was a really good message, I'm going to go back next week and see what else they've got to say. And then next week, oh, see if we get another one. And, you know, we know some people who always get a message. Not looking anywhere in particular. Sometimes there is the need for those messages. We don't know. We don't know what these people are going through. We don't know what's going on in their life. And that message is a great source of comfort. It's great. But we do have people who, they're not grasping. You just think for a moment. Just try and really get into this energy. We don't die. Yeah.
I'm just going to say, I think, for me, I've noticed sometimes it's a shame that I feel like the message of the spirit world is lost on people, in the sense that people like try and test it. Like they see it as like more of like a, oh, rather than actually realising that this is like, we are eternal, and that spirit are here communicating, trying to make us realise that, you know, for us to try and live our lives, it's sort of like, it's a shame. I think people see it as more like, oh no, like they're just, you know, it's like a test.
You will get that.
Yeah.
You will get that. And some people, yeah. And again, that's that person's mindset.
Yeah.
You can go through and give exceptional evidence, and the response will be, what's their name? I had that in a sitting once, and it was a father. Description of him, of nature, of character, of memories from childhood, all that. And the sister went, yeah, what's his name? And I went, when you were sat there watching Tiswas on a Saturday morning and your dad walked in the room, did you say to him, what's your name? because you knew it was your dad. And in this message, you know it's your dad. Well, that's the spirit world, because when you do come up against that with people, I think I understand where the spirit world's coming from, but mind you, I'll get upstairs and I'll go, no, it wasn't that at all, you idiot. There's somebody, all right, that case in particular, what's his name? All right, his name was John. Yeah. Where was he born? Birmingham, all right. What's his national insurance number? I know, but they will never take on, they will exhaust themselves with pointless questions, but they're not actually taking on the meaning of the message, or as I call it, the message of the message.
The thing is, you give all the evidence, but the message isn't the evidence,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't grasp it. They want more of that message. They think it's not combined. They think, well, got the evidence, then the message, but that message is actually in the evidence, but
Yeah.
they can't grasp it.
Yeah.
But surely someone would treat it like fortune telling.
We are seeing more of that coming in, but not fortune telling. Now, before COVID, so we've established what an evidential mediumship. Are you all quite comfortable now when we talk about that? Who would understand what a psychic? What is the difference between a psychic and an evidential medium?
Well, the psychic is reading the person.
Correct.
No.
Very good. You're up here next week. I'll have a night off.
You'd be surprised what would happen. And the other one, the medium, is, how can I put it, the messenger.
Yeah.
You're getting a message to you, which you pass on to me.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. And psychics used to have quite a bad rap in spiritualism. I understand why, because where, as I said, the last 30 years, spiritualism just sort of like went into this backwater in a way and just didn't do much. We were seeing psychics working on the platform under the banner of being a medium, and people who did understand the difference were getting a little bit indignant over it, and as would I. If I had somebody come in here and they were an exceptional psychic, and I said to them, would you do a psychic night? I would advertise it as a psychic night and introduce the person as a very good psychic, and I'm quite happy with that, because psychics can really, like lovely Ted here said, they're reading the person, they're reading their energy, all right? We all carry our energy about with us. How many times have you said to a friend or family and gone, are you all right? And they've gone, yeah, and you just know that it's not right. Yeah. They do, you know, yeah, it's fine. And you're going, man, something's going on. What is it? What is it? Because we feel other people's energy. It's only when we start using that in conjunction with our intelligence that we can actually start to really work with it well. A lot of people who suffer a great deal emotionally, and especially like agoraphobics and around crowds and people like that, in some cases there is a case of very latent psychic faculties are open, but no knowledge of it, how it works, and more importantly, how to control it. You imagine if you could hear a pin drop at 50 feet. All right, that's really handy if you want to find a pin 50 feet away. I don't know what else you can use it for, but never mind. But not only could you hear that pin drop at 50 feet, you could hear everything else in 50 feet. You could hear every voice, every footstep, every flutter of a wing, every bit of breeze. It would drive you nuts. Yeah, it would overload your senses to the point of you would shut down. And I believe that quite a few people have, if they learn a little bit more about psychism, could alleviate some of the issues that they're finding out in the world. We talk about empaths. Anybody not know what an empath is? And if you don't know, it doesn't matter. This is how we find out. Know what an empath is?
Sort of psychic, I think.
Yeah. But you tend to go much more on the emotional levels. So you will know somebody's not feeling their best. You will know somebody's feeling sad, somebody's happy. It doesn't all have to be negative energies. Somebody's happy, somebody's just won the lottery and they haven't told anybody. They're great. I love those people. Sir?
What part, if any, does the Ouija board play in all this?
Okay. Ouija boards always had a bad rap. Again, like psychics, you know, they just saying it's wrong not to use it. There are so many different tools and abilities out there. Like anything, if you take the time to understand it intelligently and work with it intellectually, to me, a Ouija board is just a very slow version of automatic writing. Automatic writing is sitting there with a pen and just letting your mind go and just start to write down what comes in.
It involves a group of people, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Also, it seems to let in not so good spirits.
I listen to the language a lot, and you just said something there, let in. I believe that, all right, the world of spirit is not full of angels, okay? And, you know, as you are on earth, when you go over the other side, you're not suddenly going to grow wings and be wonderful. It's as simple as that, but you can go through a different phase of evolution spiritually. When you have Ouija boards, in the main, they are used, it's a bit like giving a 15-year-old keys to your Mercedes. Yeah? You know, if you give a 15-year-old keys to a Mercedes, they're going to be tear-arsing off down the road, and before you know it, they're in the back of somebody or over or whatever. Because they don't know how to use it. They don't have that responsibility. Ouija boards are invariably, now they talk about teenagers. And yeah, a lot of teenagers use them. In fact, I think it was Fisher Price a few years ago bought out Ouija boards for 8 to 10-year-olds. Well, anyway, not a good idea. In a Ouija board, and when you've got a group of people, we're going back to actually what we were talking about earlier, you've got a circle. And in a circle, if you put out, you know, I like to put things in a physical way. So if there was 10 of us in a circle and we were putting out 10 watts of energy each, you would actually find in that circle, the circle as a whole is probably putting out 200 watts. And you'd be thinking, but there's 10 of us at 10 watts, so that's 100. So where's the other 100 come from? It's because of that combined, you know, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, that theory. And it's the same with Ouija boards. In the main, you get people playing with it. And this is the same with mediumship. And this is the same with psychism. But because it's not associated with a tool or something we can sort of like put the responsibility on, we treat it differently. But I know people who have abused their mediumship. Being a medium doesn't make you a good person. You know, people look at medium and stand up here, and everybody sort of like gives them a reverence. I know some mediums who I wouldn't have sit down and have a meal with. They're mediums. They can communicate, they can relay information, but their mediumship hasn't actually touched them, because we, as media, how much have you changed since you really got to town with the mediumship?
A lot.
Yeah. For the better or for the worse?
Better.
Was it easy?
No. No.
Textbook answer, thank you.
No, it's not. It's been a battle.
Yeah.
An absolute battle along the way. But as I've got older and worked more with it, the shift in myself is completely different than what I was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Completely different person.
Yeah. Because you take in, you know, I have a saying, the 90-minute spiritualist. And that is somebody who'll walk in the doors of any church or centre, and they'll walk in the doors and go, hi, oh bless you, oh you're wonderful, wasn't that an amazing service, bye everybody, walk out the door, go, right, what bastard am I going to upset now? Yeah. They have not taken on board, and it is a very slow process. It is a gradual change. You've changed, haven't you, since you've been coming here? For the better? Yeah. Just by being in the atmosphere, listening to what's said, joining in things, it makes you look at life differently. It makes you not only look at life outside the doors, but look at your own life. We've got a lovely lady who's still with us. Barbara, she's an amazing lady, and she's been a spiritualist for years and years and years. And I remember her saying, she said when she first started, she said, I was so material. She said, I couldn't walk past a gold shop without, you know, telling Abby to go in and buy me something. And she was in a service one day, and one of the mediums said to her, oh, they're saying you're very material about things. And she went, oh my God, yes I am. Because we can tell people things, but whether they take that on board is a different subject. This theory that when we go over, there are so many different theories. One of the common ones is you will sit there, well, you look at Orthodox religions, you know, come the day when you go over, you're going to be judged for everything you do. Well, hopefully this is not just me. If somebody stands there saying to me, you've been a very bad boy, what am I going to do? I'm going to go, no, I wasn't. I was kind to animals. I was there, really. But you're naturally going to defend. But if you find things in, all right, we're all, apart from yourselves, we're all pretty much in that age group now where what we used to do 20 years ago nowadays is a bit more difficult. And how do we get that? How do we accept that? We may get told by the doctor, you've got to give up this, got to give up that. Well, we're going to do it, aren't we? But we find ourselves and just think, yeah, I can't do that anymore. And we acknowledge that ourselves, and then we can move on. And it's the same with our spirituality. You know, you can walk away. I used to be very argumentative. I know, shock, horror, shut it.
There's nothing like a good argument.
Oh no, it's definitely, thank you. Yeah, I used to be very, very argumentative because I was always right and everybody else was totally wrong.
Absolutely.
And it was as easy as that. But by sitting regularly, developing firstly my healing, learning, listening, I used to then sort of like find myself biting my tongue a bit before I jumped in. Or I would walk away from a bit of discourse and think, didn't handle that really well. I feel uncomfortable with my reaction. So it's a self-learning process all the time. And this is what we offer in the church, but we just need that receptive mind. We are always, you know, I would get it here. Oh, I don't go in there because it's a church. You know, that's fine. Every Sunday, 40, 50 people do come in here because it's a church. Great. I'm not going to change it just for you, mate. As simple as that. You know, the spirit world rely on our cooperation, and it is cooperation. Now, I emphasise that word cooperation because you hear people saying, oh, the spirit world told me this and told me to do that and do it. Number one, sorry, the spirit world, that's like saying humanity told me to do this and do that. That's not good enough. If you are saying you are in contact with the spirit world, you can tell me who they are. Don't treat it like this balloon on the end of it. You know, there's the spirit world and there's me, because it's not. We are in the spirit world and the spirit world is in me. It's as simple as that. So that cooperation needs to be there. And yeah, test the spirit, but not to the ridiculous points. But do test the spirit. In developing mediums, and we will be talking about this, again, going back to sort of like the Ouija board influence, not every spirit is a wonderful, enlightened soul. Same way as not everybody who goes into a church or a centre is a wonderful, enlightened soul. You know, why should it be any different over that side of life as it is from here? It isn't. I've had 2 experiences where I've become aware of, I don't like the term evil, and that's not trying to avoid anything. I refer to it now as uneducated, because I believe that everybody has the opportunity for redemption. I know it's an old-fashioned word. But that evolution of their soul. And every book that I've ever read where they're dealing with things in the spirit world, they talk about going to different planes of existence. Some are uncomfortable planes of existence, some are beautiful. But the people from the beautiful planes quite often travel to the uncomfortable planes. When somebody shows remorse and regret, and I don't mean that in the old orthodox way, genuinely go, I'm going wrong here and I don't know why, I don't know where, I need some help. And the minute that thought goes out, assistance is there on hand. Not to do it for us. And again, I emphasise that because we do have sometimes the wordage that we use, oh, spirit world, you know, was it the parking angel? Please don't ever say the parking angel to me. Spirit world, sort this out for me. They're probably sat there going, yeah, all right, carry on. We've sorted it out for you. What do you learn? Nothing. We help you sort it out. What are you going to learn? A lot. You see the difference there? You know, the spirit world work with us, and we work with them. The spirit world are intelligent, so we have to work with them intelligently. You know, if I said to the spirit world, come on, do something and amaze everybody here, the spirit world are going, what? What do you want? All right, levitate me on my chair. Levitate me on my chair. Yeah, to do that you need to sit in a physical circle for about 7 years, so you need to get a group of people around, and then we could possibly do it. So they're not saying they're not doing it, but they're saying, oh, there's a lot to this. Yeah, it doesn't just happen. So we work with the spirit world. In my mediumship, because we work online a lot now and we're working with different countries, And it is beginning to come through that I'm picking up foreign words, not talking a foreign language, but just a word in a foreign language. But that's only because I look at foreign languages now. I listen to it. I get a word and I'll put it in good old Google Translate to try and get that into my awareness, because without doing that, the spirit world haven't got anything to work with in my awareness.
Sorry if this sounds a bit...
No, listen, no question is daft, all right? This is exactly what these lights are for, unless you're Ted.
I've got two questions really. The first one is about what you're saying about different languages.
Mm.
Wouldn't spirit be able to, I can't really think how I want to ask this, but like, wouldn't they be able to communicate, because they're so vast in their intelligence and past life, etc. Would they not? I know what you mean by
Yeah.
picking up other languages, but would they be able to communicate in any language to any person?
They are able to. However, again, we go back to the cooperation. That would manifest in what we call trance mediumship. Anybody not understand when we talk trance? We're all happy with what that is. Sir? Yeah, brilliant. So trance mediumship is a much deeper level of mediumship. We work in trance, and it's a sliding scale. All right, because when you're working with your evidential, remember the other night, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh my God, yes, I can see it. Ding.
Yeah.
Yeah? That is a state of entrancement.
Right. Okay.
When we go into the philosophy, there's again another level. When I first started working, I worked in an engineering factory with 200 men. So you can imagine the language wasn't exactly church or Sunday best at work all day, every day. And when I was demonstrating and going into the philosophy, which is my second big passion, I would occasionally drop out of the energy. So my awareness went from being with the other world and relaying what I'm hearing to being in this world. And it's very disconcerting, because suddenly you look out and there's all these people looking at you, and you've just sort of like dropped into that position and thinking, have I just dropped the F-bomb? What have I just said? Oh my God. So, trance is a very sliding scale. We've got a trance dem here at the end of the month with Mark Stone. If you can, it will be very educational for you. Trance is where the medium's consciousness steps to one side. All right. One of the best descriptions I heard was medium Catherine Green a few years ago, and somebody said, "Where are you when your team is speaking through you?" And she said, "It's a bit like being in the room next door." She said, "I'm just aware of just faintly muffled voices, but I can't quite discern what they're saying." And I thought, I like that. I like things that I can relate to, and I like that. So yes, under those circumstances, there have been recorded, when I mean record, I don't mean like today on video, but recorded in books and bibliographs, etc., of, in fact, we had it here. There was a wonderful, one of the old school mediums called Marjorie Fry. Marjorie Fry was exceptional medium, scared the living daylights out of me, absolutely, because she was so direct about things, and she sat in circle and started speaking a language, and people were going, what the hell's going on? One of the guys in the circle went, oh my God, she's talking to me in Russian, because my parents were Russian. So yes, there is that ability there. We've got to look at these things from the spirit's perspective as well. Now, for a medium to stand up in a demonstration, so you're working with a great range of energies, so you've got people sat there, the old man who's been dragged down by the missus, sat there thinking, time does this bloody finish? I could be out doing the garden. To the most ardent spiritualists and everything in between. So that's a lot of mixture of energy because we work with the energy that people bring in. Number two, what would be the point of it? Because everything that the spirit world do with us, there is a reason. Now, in the case of that, in a large public demonstration, you will run the risk of, if I were to speak Russian to somebody, oh, Margaret, Polish, the Polish couple that come. If I were to speak Polish to them 1 week, you know, everybody, including me, would be going, oh my God. Next week, you'd probably be standing Romanian here. And then maybe I can emulate that again and speak Polish to them again. The week after, you know, by this time the press have got involved and maybe TVs and whatever, and they'll be go, you know, and if you did manage to replicate that again, they go, well, can you talk another language now? Can you do this now? Can you do that now? And that's the inherent danger, and this is sadly, we see with a lot of our trance mediums and physical mediums of now, of this time, there's been an awful lot of fraudulent activity recorded. You know, there has been cases where there was a video camera running in the seance room and recorded the medium who's meant to be sat in a cabinet and the spirit are meant to be out there moving things of them somehow escaping their bonds and walking around in the darkness and touching people. It's recorded. It's there on the camera. You can't, you know, and people are denying it, and I'm just like, it's there. Sorry. Film of that person doing that. Because the public pressure to perform is on them, and everything we do is affected by our energies. So we can't replicate a sitting. This is why a spirit world like the circles, because you have that dedication. You have the same people meeting week in, week out, and you harmonise your vibration. You felt it in our circle.
Yeah.
We're on week 4 now, aren't we? And already there's that
Yeah,
ease.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
How each week it just feels more.
yeah, there's that ease. We feel more at ease with each other. And because we're at ease, puts us into that state where we're going to be more receptive. Because if you were sat next to somebody in there and you were thinking, don't like this person, I don't like this person, you're not going to get a lot from the spirit world because your mental mind is going, yeah? So it's at ease. So yes, in answer to your question, there is nothing the spirit world cannot do. The thing that limits it is what we do to engage that, to enable that to happen. As I said, going back to the physical mediums, Leslie Flint, who did direct voice. Now, when he was investigated by the newspapers to ensure that he wasn't throwing his voice or doing ventriloquism, they actually gaffer taped his mouth shut. That's not a bad idea. Just had a thought.
Look at all the knowledge that you've used.
But they actually gaffer taped his mouth shut, and still the voices were heard very audibly in the room. It would be like, if you go to the back of the room, please, and just, yes, you, no, you. All right. If you just go to the back of the room and just call out your name, that's all, and then you can sit down. Thank you. So we would be sat here in circle, and then suddenly you would hear
Donna.
from over there. Thanks, Donna. That's how direct voice is heard. Yeah. Careful what you wish for.
Okay.
When we were in Holland mucking about, and the spirit world mucked about, the spirit world have got a great sense of humour. And this is real, and unfortunately, you see, when we talk about experiences, you can go, not sure about that. Because I always say with spiritualism, it is an experience. You need to experience these things. And the only way you can experience these things is by attending circles, attending services, and really allowing yourself to be engaged. We were in the training room, and all the students gone out for a coffee and was mucking about, and I had this bowl that I've been using for something, and I was just playing silly buggers, and I went, "Oh, here, can you hear me over?" And I put the bowl away, and this voice came out of the bowl, went, "Hello?" And it was nobody, there was only 3 of us in the room, and we all heard it. And I was, my first reaction was, "Bah!" because it caught me by surprise. But it was, again, it's just the intelligence of spirit and just being part of it, because, you know, we were a group working together in a very wonderful place, all with like minds. Of course, the spirit will play, you know. I wish I'd gone, okay, and if I'd approached that intelligently and with a goal, probably the results would have been very good, because everything was right. All the energy was there, the peace was there, the right people were there, the right intent, because the spirit world again will work with us just to get their message over, not to amuse us. There's not an entertainment. And this is what I say about, you know, talking in a foreign language. It would very quickly be viewed as an entertainment. Oh, that's good. Oh, let's go back next week and see what they can do then.
So when you were saying about you're learning different languages at the moment, is that more so because you're just going to other countries? Is that what you mean?
Because I want to push my mediumship. We talk about our toolbox in our mediumship. Jan, what did you do career-wise for a job? Secretary. Ted,
Yes.
I know what you did for a job.
Yeah.
So you describe being a secretary to Jan.
Describe being a secretary.
Oh, hold on, your wife was a secretary, wasn't she?
All her life.
Bugger. Darling, what did you...
Theatre nurse.
Right, okay. So, Jan, describe being a theatre nurse to that lady.
Being in operations.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's not to humiliate or put anybody down. This is what we talk about, our toolbox or our frame of reference. So as developing mediums, we need to expand our toolbox. So if you were a medium and a communicator there, you probably wouldn't communicate anything about the job. But if you had nursing experience, you would, oh yeah, I know what this lady, she's a theatre nurse. Yeah, I know, because it's familiar, I understand it, it's there in my mind, and the spirit world will use what's in our mind. I always say, if I had a mathematician or a scientist come through and gave me the formula to turn water into petrol, yeah, I wouldn't understand it. But if I had a very strong mathematic background, I'd be going, oh yeah, I understand that. Yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. So as mediums, evidential mediums, because we are now working physically and virtually in other countries, I keep latching onto words and going, I want to, those words aren't coming into the messages, but at least I'm just adjusting my thinking to try and encapsulate different words. So I'm opening myself up to it. So I'm just starting with the spirit world of putting that thought there of, and it's happened twice. I've had a word come through and the sitters understood it and it was relevant to what was going on. Whereas before, I had no interest in foreign languages, but now I look at words. I listen when, you know, we've got Jack coming over from Denmark. I listen now. Danish is a nightmare. You have to imagine you have a potato in your mouth. But even then, you can get the inflections off of it. So if you just catch a word and you go, oh, that it's got a familiarity there. There's that inflection. So yeah, there's nothing we can't do with the spirit world, but we've got to put the hours in. We've got to do the work as well.
You have to do many hours, lifetimes of work
Mm.
with spirit, but also got to respect spirit.
Yeah, and also,
Both ways.
very much. Also, we've got to find out how our mediumship is going to unfold. I had a lady ask me a little while back, I've been sat for 12 years in development circles and nothing's happened. And I said, well, whoever said you were going to be an evidential medium?
You can sit in a circle most of your lifetime.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you do that, you still learn, like coming here, coming on the Sunday, you still have that progress of learning.
Yeah.
It will never, ever, ever stop.
Yeah. And unfortunately, again, because of the last 30 years, the way things have been going, the evidential medium has been the highlight of the movement. Everybody wants, I want to do what you do. Oh, really? You want to give up 30 of your 50 Sundays of a year for nothing, for not a lot of money? You know, show me a millionaire medium. I'm still waiting to see one. You want to be at people's beck and call, you know. You really want to do all this? I think you need to think about this. And sorry, go on.
There are people, though, are repetitive people that keep coming back and coming back. And it's trying to teach them that no matter how many times you're going to come back, most of it's going to be on repeat. And you have to space that time out between one visit to the next.
Oh, what, for messages?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yes, yeah,
Message grabbers.
yeah. And again, that's something with private sit-ins. I won't see anybody in a 6-month span. But you see other people, and this is entirely up to them. It's not for me to say right, or it's not right for me. I'm not saying they're wrong, but it's not right for me. So people will go to like once a month and have messages. It is, to me, that's unhealthy. And also, you do see adverts, and I know I keep on about this, is because I mean it, where you start seeing people, get the guidance and advice from the spirit world, and I'm like, got to be a bit careful there. Well, I've never had the spirit world say to me, I've got to or I mustn't. They've always said, have you considered? Have you thought about this? You know, have you worked on that? Do you see that? It's always been put back in the form of a question. And you do see people of different abilities where actually the guidance and advice from the spirit world is just simply that person's opinion of you at this time, which can sometimes really not help. Really not help. But again, going back to all of the mediumship facets, everything is there available for us to work with, but we've got to put the time and the effort and the intelligence in the approach to it. You know, and the spirit world know us better than we know ourselves. And like in the case of this person who'd been sat for all those years wanting to be a evidential mediumship, for all I know, the spirit world might have gone, yeah, they're going to go out, they're going to do a couple of services, give a couple of messages, think, right, that's fine, I've done it, what's next? And not go any further with it. Don't know. I can't prove that or disprove it. But obviously the spirit world sees something there, just going, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why do you know, because there's only our ego. You need ego to work on a platform or do a dem. You need ego, but you mustn't be egotistical. You need that ego to stand up in front of people. Believe this or not, I am actually by nature quite a shy person. Shut it. I'll give you something to choke about in a minute. I am quite a shy person outside of where I work. I'll sit back and be quiet on things. This is, you know, but when I'm here, when I'm doing this, if I'm demonstrating anywhere, that's when I rely on that ego side of me, the gregarious, of going, right, come on, I've got a job to do here, I know you're here, let's do it. Because without that ego, you would find it impossible to stand up in front of people. Without that ego, you'd find it impossible really to try and communicate with the spirit world, because you'd be saying, oh no, it's not them, it's me, it's just out of my head.
But then I've come up across some people that have terrible egos, and
Well, that's when we get egotistical.
exactly,
Yeah.
and they've been hard work to get past at any point, and they will put themselves first over everybody else,
Yeah.
because I'm important, because I can do this.
And again, we come back to the evidential medium. It is just a faculty. It is like learning to drive a car. And we have good car drivers and we have bad car drivers. It is just a faculty. You haven't got to. You have this amazing opportunity when you stand there and demonstrate or deliver philosophy. You are sharing other people's lives, and it is real. It is real. You share other people's emotions, which are real. You share other people's fears, hopes, desperations, which are real. And it makes you look at your own life and just think, wow, I see traits in that. There was a wonderful message the other week, and it was to a young girl from a music teacher. And the music teacher was apologising because when she was on the earth, she was pushing this young girl to go professional and really coming down on her quite hard, and she simply didn't want to. And it caused a big rift. And do you know what? That was my message as well, because sometimes when I'm running circles, I see potential in people, and it was a really good timely reminder for me to go, yeah, that's what you want for them. It's not necessarily what they want for themselves at this time. So back off, Lawrence. And it just opens up all these different ways of thinking. You know, it just brings it. And that was somebody else's message, but I was just in it. I was in it, listening to it, and went, there's elements of me in this message. That's incredible. So I won't be pushing. Yes, sir.
What other aspects of mediumship are there apart from evidential?
So we got the healing mediums.
Right.
We have our philosophical mediums.
What does that involve?
That is, the philosophy of spiritualism is not a written rule, but it is about bringing through that information to be talking under an inspirational energy, because you quite often, you may think your address one day is going to go down one lane. You don't have the whole address, but you have an idea of where it's going. And when you actually start talking, you've just gone up a totally different road, and you just think, okay. And then somebody will come up afterward and say, do you know what, I really needed to hear that today. I think, that's fine. Yeah, great, job done. Inspirational mediumship. You look at all the great works of art. Look at all the great classical music. You know, that is, to me, that is prime examples of inspiration. To bring that music through. I love some of the classical music. Mussorgsky is one of my favourites, because every track is telling a story as well. And when you know the story and you sit there and you listen to the music and you're going along with the story that music is about, what's the other one? Peer Gynt Suite, things like that. It's telling this story, and you sit there and you're in it. You're part of that story. You're carried by the music.
You've got to have the music talent in the first place.
Very
To
much.
be inspired.
Very much. And funny enough, isn't that funny, Ted?
Yeah.
Before you came in, we were talking, and was talking about psychic art. We're seeing a bit of a resurgence in psychic art again. And psychic art is where somebody will draw. There used to be a lady called Coral Polge, and she would demonstrate quite often with Gordon Higginson. Gordon Higginson would be the evidential medium, giving the evidence of the communicator from spirit. Coral Polge would be drawing on the side, and they would draw a likeness of that person as well. The sitters would go, yeah, that's my mum. So amazing. But again, what I said about cooperation, the virtual spiritualism at the moment is great in one respect, because it's opening up the doors to a lot of people. There is everything, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. People are just seeing something and going, oh, I can do that. You know, and people are going, do anybody recognise this? And their own mother wouldn't recognise them. You know what I mean? So a lot of the psychic artists trained as artists. So it's an enhancement of that skill. And exactly the same with the musicians. They needed to know what notes made up a chord and what chords would go together and what an allegro is and things. So they had, again, when I talk about the toolbox of the medium, all those skills are in the medium's toolbox, and we are all able to be mediums, as in to get that inspiration, that awareness of the spirit world. And the true test of it, you look at some of the music of today, are we going to be sat there listening to that in 100 years? Probably not.
It's all going to be AI in the future.
Yeah,
AI generated.
yeah. And people have a fear of AI, but it's like anything. You know, I look at it, well, artificial intelligence, great, because it's not governed by greed, power, corruption. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with AI. It's better than the human intelligence at the moment, which is all geared to power, corruption and greed. Who knows? But inspirational mediumship. When you sat there pondering on, you've got a challenge, do you work with drawings, sir? Do you work with drawings or plans?
I'm retired.
Did you work with drawings or plans then?
I was in engineering, yeah.
Right, thank you. So, my dad was an engineer, and he's just saddled up, that's why I'm going, oh, no. Did you ever experience where you were looking at something, and you know, we do the head scratching, and it's like, I can't quite see how that goes together, and then suddenly it's just like, oh my God, oh, I've got it now. What's to say that isn't inspiration from the spirit world? Yeah.
If you went and asked the foreman if I could do it.
That works. Well, that works very well. And my dad was a foreman. But yeah, inspiration. When we have those moments, when we have those sort of like, oh wow, oh I know, I could do that. Or, I haven't heard from so-and-so for a long time. I wonder if they're all right. And then literally within 24 hours you hear from them. Because there's just that, it's just like right on the edge. When you move your hand, when you're looking straight ahead, when you just start to register your hand, that's how I describe awareness. Because it's just on the edge of our vision, it's just on the edge of our hearing. But it's something we can start to focus on and bring closer to us if we have the mind to. But a lot of the time things are there. When we're driving along and just think, oh, do you know what, I'm going to take this route home tonight. And then you find out that the other route was flooded or roadworks just for a change. Or something. And you think, oh, God, glad I didn't go down that way. So it's always there, that inspiration. So, and that's just a few of the form. Mediumship is just having that connection with the other world. And probably one of the greatest forms, but least explored because it's difficult to quantify, it's difficult to prove, is that inspirational side of spirit. But I think when you look through the history of all society, if you looked at it for the inspiration side coming in, you probably see it there. And that's not making things fit. I do know people make things fit. It's not there. It's just that I always say, like, you know, we are magnificent. We are amazing. We don't think that of ourselves, but we are. You think about everything you've overcome in your life, all the troubles, all the trials, all the illnesses, all the bust-ups, all the arguments, all the hardship, all the good times. And here we are today. It's amazing. And when we talk about, you know, changing the world, oh, I can't change the world. But every great religion, every great philosophy, every great movement, every great empire, all started with one person. When you trace everything back, it all started with one person. So never underestimate your power. Never underestimate the ability for that inspiration to come in, to make things better, to raise the vibrations, to bring about healing, to bring about when we've lost somebody, you know, how many times do we have people in our churches and centres, and because whoever's parted, there's been bad blood, there's been animosity there. You know, if I had a huge row with you today and then walked out the door and popped me clogs, I'd want to come back and just say sorry about that. I would need to do that to move myself on, because that energy will sit with me forever. Sometimes you get it, the sitter doesn't want to hear from that person, which is a shame, but you've already made that initial contact, so you may have sown that seed for some sort of reconciliation. It may not be there in this lifetime, that's fine, it's not our life. We just do what we can. But yeah, I think even the times that we're going through now, you can see the hand of spirit at work. When do we find our strength? The greatest time of adversity. Yeah, you've lived through a war. Yeah. You all bury your heads under the blanket and go, oh, we're going to die. You got up and got on. Exactly. And you found ways, you know. When we think about things as fearful, when things actually happen, we get through it. We look at the state of the world now, and it is not a happy place. And we know it's all wrong. We have that ability, and one day, hopefully we will, of all standing up and just going, no, we're not having this anymore. This is ridiculous. This stops. This stops. If everybody did that, imagine that. That'd be great. We all have that ability, but we've got to find that strength within ourselves. Old Teddy here, when he used to spend the night in the Anderson shelters and didn't know if your house was going to be there when he came out in the morning.
Right, we used to sleep in the cellar underneath.
Yeah.
If it came down, it came down.
Mm.
That was it. 4 years, never slept till the bed.
Yeah. So, you know, but you got through it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. And everybody got through it because everybody was united then.
yeah.
Sadly, this is what's a bit lacking in today's society. Whatever you say, some smart arse is always going to come out, that thing. But yeah, we have unlimited potential, but we just need to believe that of ourselves. But again, not in an egotistical way. Just understand, yeah, you can say no. This is not right. What's going on in certain parts of the world, it's not right. I'm not going to get into the politics of it all. It simply is not right, and it has to stop. And, you know, you can sort out the rows afterwards. But for now, you just stop it. Anyway. Any more questions?
Sorry, Cecily.
Oh, do you have a question?
Well, I kind of was going to say, when you said that you gave a message to someone that you could pick up a lot of...
No, I wasn't giving the message. It was somebody else I was chairing.
But you kind of like felt that could have been canvas for you. And somebody over there mentioned something about message grabbers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is that... I'm not sure message grabber...
Message grabber. We used to have somebody here, and my partner once commented, "Well, every time I've been here, that person's mother has been an astronaut, a tank commander, a spy." You will have people. Now, this is down in a big part to the schools of the medium. Right, I've got a gentleman here who is a father to somebody here today. Who can understand that? So put your hands up. There. All right. A good medium will keep working with that and then talk about this father and bring on those defining things about him to try and narrow it down to one person where we want to get to. But you will get some people going, "Oh yes, no, he's mine," yeah, and be really quite vocal about it. And that actually will pull a medium if they've not got enough skill at their trade. They will go with the voice vibration. "Oh, I'm with you, am I? Oh, right, okay." And then talking about that. And then once I've made that link with you, I can probably start working psychically and picking up things, and it doesn't go very well. But you will get, and likewise, you get other people. I did say to a lady the other night online, and they invited me back, so that was all right. I was giving this evidence, and no, and I said to Spirit, "Well, where am I going?" And it was on Zoom. And I said this lady's name, I said, "Do you understand this?" She went, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, how long were you going to let me struggle on before you put your bloody hand up?" I said, "For Christ's sake, I've given some really good evidence here." So I just wanted to make sure. And I said, "What do you mean make sure?" He was a fisherman. He had his own fishing boat. How many people can do that? So you get it on the other side of the coin where people are a bit reluctant. That's come in a lot since COVID. We've gone quiet and we need to find our voice again. So that is a knock-on effect from all that time. So do you understand what a message grabber is now?
Yeah.
So the message grabber will be the one, but as I say, a lot of that is a poor reflection on the medium, because you should know as well as a medium. If I've got any doubt in my mind, I say one thing, and they'll show me, and it could be the most weird. What was it once? A pineapple. That was great. Do you understand why he's holding a pineapple up? Yeah, I do. All right, that's fine. I am with you. because I've got a doubt in there. But yeah, it's the skills of the medium. And you must have seen mediums go, thank you, thanks for answering up, but it's not sitting right. And you can actually hear it when the medium's talking because it's a bit stunted when they're talking. But when they get the right sitter, suddenly it's like opening the floodgates and the communication really flows. Comes out really fast.
Sometimes the recipient likes to make it fit.
Yeah?
That's one of the
Yeah.
we get, they want to make it fit.
Yeah.
That's the grabber. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's a message grabber. They will, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, he wasn't really a coalman. He ran an office. In the coal industry? No. But yeah, it's a reflection on the message grabber, but it's a bigger reflection on the medium, because the medium should be that skilled that they, isn't feeling right. Thank you very much, but. You had one?
I was just going to ask, but it's probably going to get back into it, but I was just going to ask, how do spirit actually do what they do? Give the images in the mind, make you smell things, is it because they're energy and we're energy as well? Or how do
Yeah.
they actually do that?
Yeah. It is via energy. And we've started talking a lot more about energy now, but we need to be a bit careful because I've got a branch called metaphysics, and they deal solely with energy, and I started looking into it. A lot of common sense being spoken in it, but it's very dispersonal, and that's why I pulled back from it a bit. We are dealing Yeah, and again we struggle, and this is causing a lot of confusion out there. This room is full of air. Yeah, we know that because we're still alive. Can we see it? Can we touch it? If we've got a balloon, for that moment, yes, we could. It becomes tangible then to us. And then we let go of that balloon, and that air goes back into the air. Similar with the spirit world. The spirit world, our world, all the other worlds are all here. We're not going somewhere. Yeah. Imagine a book, closed book, and every page is a different realm of existence, but it's all in one book, it's all together. But each page is telling a different story. But it's all together.
Everything's happening at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. And the same with the spirit world. We are in the spirit world is in us. In the Bible, I am in my Father as my Father is in me. It's all coexisting and happening all at the same time. But it's learning. When we start with our awareness, we can start to differentiate between what are our feelings, what are the feelings of physical people around us, and then what are the feelings of the discarnate around us as well. Wish I knew. Keep saying to her, I never see where they are. I said to my team once, I never see where they are in the spirit world. Because some of the old books have these wonderful accounts of what the spirit world's like. And I said, I never see that. And they just came back and said, because that's their heaven, not yours. And I went, oh, fair enough. If you imagine heaven's going to be big, pink, fluffy paradise, when you pass over, you may not be any surprise to find yourself in a big, pink, fluffy paradise.
Yeah.
But after a while, you're going to get a bit bored with the big, pink, fluffy paradise, and then you're allowing change to come in, and things will change. There's a lovely account in Many Mansions, and it was accounts from received in Circle by Air Chief Marshal Dowding, who was very big and instrumental in the the way the war unfolded. And it was from servicemen and women who had passed in conflict. And one of the accounts always stuck in my mind, that this chap stood there on the battlefield, and this is his language. He said, I knew I'd copped it, and all I wanted was a whiskey, and I had a whiskey in my hand. And I drank it, and it was lovely. And then I wanted another whiskey, and he said, and I had another whiskey in my hand. But I got halfway through it and then realised I didn't need it anymore. And it went. And I thought, I like that. Because the spirit world love us, and we love spirit, and the spirit world love us. So it doesn't make any sense to me that we would go into a place that would be totally unfamiliar to us when we pass over. There would be a familiarity. If you think heaven is this little thatched cottage in the middle of the countryside, guess what? You're going to have a little thatched cottage in the countryside. But one day you're going to realise that you don't need that physical, because you're no longer a physical person. So that little thatched cottage will probably dissipate. Don't need food. Don't need to sleep. Yes, sir.
I believe we live multiple lifetimes.
Ooh, what do you mean by multiple lifetimes?
Come back,
So
reincarnate on Earth.
reincarnation.
Different person.
Reincarnation is one of those subjects I think will never be resolved until we actually go over. I think it's very limiting to think that this is the only plane of existence that we've ever been to. I find that quite a limiting thought. And I do find it limiting, and especially when, you know, we have the ego side comes in and says, oh yes, well I was a Persian prince. I was a Victorian lady in waiting to the, you know, there's always a position. I was never, you know, the person who used to go and clean the sewers. I was never the person who was responsible for culling the rats or something like that.
But people have been taken back under hypnosis and described lives they've had without realising what they were saying.
But have they had those lives? Because we can all touch on the memories of other people's lives, but it doesn't mean that every contact I work with, I have lived their life, but I can describe their life.
Yeah,
So
but it's different under hypnosis.
Yeah, I still think it's I still think it's the same thing, because we start then looking at maybe the group soul theory. In spiritualism, we have this acknowledgement that we have a guide with us through our whole life, somebody there to help us, and we have a range of different helpers coming to help us through in our life. So what's to say that those memories that are being uncovered are not memories of you being a helper for that person at that time, not actually that person? And the amount of evidence that you can relay is no different to what a very accomplished evidential medium. I've seen evidential mediums give names, addresses, phone numbers and things like that. But they were not that person. But in that context, if you were to look at that as a past life regression, you say, wow, that's amazing evidence. You know, they knew where they lived. They knew they were 4 steps up from the road to get in their front door, you know, so that, yeah, that was them. But no, they weren't. They were just of that soul group, of that time, able to tap into that information. So I do believe, yes, that we have different experiences. And I do believe that this world and this incarnation brings with it its own demands. We have to have money in our pockets, we have to have food on our tables, we want a roof over our head. So all these things are governing our physical life, and we have to do things to accomplish that. So this physical world puts a lot of demands on us as spiritual beings, but we have to comply with it. And that's why this world exists. Whether we will ever find true peace in this world, I just simply don't know, because it's always just going to be a struggle of the physical. Who knows? So yes, I do believe that we do have past lives, but how much of us was living that life or in a spiritual part of that life, I don't know. That would be interesting. I did have one experience with one of my guides who I got very familiar with, knew them very well, I thought, knew them very, very well. And then one day they appeared, but they were a totally different person, but I knew it was them, which really threw me. And I went, why have you done this? And he said, I've gone to a different incarnation to help you at this time. And I found that fascinating, because I thought, great, I can't wait, because this is going to be like, you know, stars in your eyes. Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be, oh, this one. So, yeah, that was my evidence of that. But again, you know, when we can, this is going right back to the beginning, everything we do is evidential, but we need to be able to find that evidence as well. So I could probably spend the rest of my life here researching this different incarnations. Was that because we identify as us, we're unique, we're an individual. When we're on a spiritual plane, we may be part of a group, which to us is probably a little bit uncomfortable. Feel like we're losing our identity, because our identity is the only thing that we can say is truly us. But is that identity expressing itself, experiencing some other corporeal being's physical existence? I don't know. So, sorry, you're not going to get an answer on that one. And if we ever did a talk on reincarnation, we could be here all night and still not agree. It's wherever you feel comfortable with. As I say, I'm always just I'm just a wee bit wary when we hear account. Apparently, I was told this by a psychic once, so it must be true. I was a soldier in the army in the 1800s in India, but I was a coward, and I ran into the jungle to escape a battle, and then I was eaten by a tiger. And I said, oh, well, that explains why I'm scared of tigers then. I didn't go down at all well. But so, yeah, you know, again, everything we do is evidential, but we've got to meet spirit on that level, not come up with wild, delusional things just to make us or the sitter feel good. We've really got to engage with the spirit world on an equal footing. And then we'll see results. Then we will start to see real production of evidence. Good question. Thank you. All right.
Can I just ask one more?
Yeah, of course you can.
When we lose someone here, we grieve for them. When
Yeah.
you go up to spirit world, do they grieve for us because they've lost us, if that makes sense?
Sorry.
Like, if I died tomorrow, I feel
You'll
like
try not to be.
be distraught.
You're helping on the rally day, so you can't until the end of the month. All right.
I'd be distraught because I'd lost my family.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
feel when we lose someone, don't we?
Yeah. Ooh, that's really good.
Well, probably right now I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's the way things go.
That is really interesting question. Again, I don't have the answer. I have an answer. Yes, we would miss those we've left behind, but that would also be counterbalanced by all those we meet up with again. That lack that loss of the physical. You know, imagine if you were really not in a good way before you went over to the spirit world, and you do what I call the blink. I think it just comes down to a blink. Sooner or later, we're all going to do the blink. We're all going to do that and open our eyes and go, "Ooh, shit, where am I?" Yeah, the blink. Once we go through that and we've lost the pain, the fear, the suffering, we're back. You know, we've been in the company again of people who right now we give our eye teeth to be in their company again. But you would also, you wouldn't have that sense of separation that we do in the physical world, because we need to, we have two choices. We can work on our awareness, so we can be our own medium. Or go and see a medium, consult with a medium. I like that word, consult with a medium. So we do have that ability, and then there's various degrees of success with that. But then from the other side of life, you're here. You're going to be around your family.
So it's just the physical side.
Yeah, it's just that physical. You're there.
Lost, isn't it?
And probably a deeper communication with those on earth, because we will have those extra senses of, you know, knowing how people are feeling. And I see it, but I had to learn this in my mediumship. There's a lady, is another church. She sat, say where you are, all right? Hubby came through, and he sat one chair away. And I'm going, okay, this is new, I don't understand this. But as the communication started, the lady got very upset, because very much stuck in that grief, which is fine. Which is, you know, there's no time limit. So still very much in that grieving energy for the loss of her husband. He, for my benefit, was showing himself sat one seat away, because he couldn't draw close, because the grief to him was a physical emotion. You know, and we do get close to that on the earth plane. We know people who have grieved, and it hurts us. We imagine that tenfold, 20-fold, 100-fold even in the spirit world. You know, and often you get people saying, "I've never heard from so-and-so, and I desperately want to hear from them." Maybe we've got to go through a grieving process. To me, it would be inherently unhealthy if somebody passed and the next day the medium could do a communication for them. Because I believe, in my opinion, is that would stall our grieving process, because it is a process and we need to go through it. You know, we've got all those different emotions. They have the 7 emotions, isn't it? It's fear, despair, anger, denial, all those. And we just go through it in our time. There's no time limit. Our bereavement group here, you know, people say, "I feel really guilty because it's 20 years on and I'm still grieving." Fine. Fine. If that's where you are, that's fine. That's fine for you. Yeah. But it sounds very cold, and I don't mean it this way, but it is all a process. You know, and when you get to a stage with your grief where that communication then isn't going to hinder your progression or your development or your journey on your path of grief, then that communication will become available. But again, because in that time, that is probably one of the prime times that you could create a dependency, and that would be really unhealthy. Because all that would do is hold the sitter in that grief, because they get their fix. "Oh, thank you, that was wonderful, that's great." 3 days later, that fix is worn off, and they want to come back to you to get that fix again. Where's your progression in there? You've stalled it. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm sure we would have a form of grief, but not as we understand it, because that ability to connect You imagine if your family's all over the world and you could be with all of them all the time, all at the same time. You could think, that's great. No airfares. No only having a little bottle of water for £20. Yeah. I do wonder, actually, and this has been tackled a few times in books, how when we touch on reincarnation there, how does the spirit world grieve when somebody is coming to be reborn on the earth plane?
I've read in, I can't remember his name now, The Journey of Souls.
Okay.
I can't remember his name, but he touched on that. Just his thing. He did like path of progression for people.
Yeah.
But they were saying that like in the human form, in the physical form, we only have like part of our spirit with us, and
Yeah.
the other part's still in the
Yeah.
spiritual. So we're all like kind of still together, but
Yeah.
we have like a higher self.
I think in today's language we are an app.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are an app. The mainframe is still upstairs, and we're an app. We're that expression of
Yeah.
a greater thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyway,
We could be here for
I know. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I hope you've got stuff to take away with you and think. Just look at it and ask questions. Super.
My memory's not very good, is it?
Yeah.
Ooh.